I'm a huge fan of stencils, and there are so many ways to stencil. And if you like my apron, you will know that this is actually screen printed stenciling, which gives it a little bit more dimension. The other thing I wanted to say is that remember that your stencils are tools. So you can see that I took a stencil and I cut it in half. That's right, I cut it apart because they're meant to be used. So to screen print with your stencils, let me show you exactly how that works. I have a printing surface, and all that is a piece of batting, that's just quilt batting doubled over with a piece of fabric over it, mostly just to keep it clean and from getting all hairy. The next thing I need just an empty blank screen, okay? You can buy these anywhere, but you can also make your own, and I wanna show you just how easy that is to do. I have a piece of a curtain shear. That's all that is. I just bought it at like a home store. And then I have an embroidery hoop. Now I'm using a plastic embroidery hoop, and the reason for this is because I find the wood ones wiggle a little bit more than I would like. So I put half of the hoop underneath the shear, and then I put the other half right in there so that it's gonna fit and push down. Now I'm just gonna do this from the other side, flip it over. There you go, push it down. And once that's in there, all you need to do is kind of wiggle it around, tighten it up, okay? And then you'll just pull out any wrinkles or crinkles, cut around it, and you will have a screen that you made. But for the sake of time, we're gonna go ahead and use the commercial screen. So the next thing is to attach our stencil. And I wanna give you a quick storage tip, because I know storing stencils is kind of a hairy subject. So what I do is I leave my stencils in their packaging, and then I just take a pair of scissors and I cut along the edge. And what this means is it's easy for me to slide my stencil just in and out of that side pocket. And you can see that's what I've done right here. So this is a very well-used stencil, and it just comes right out and it doesn't get tangled with anything. So the next step is to flip over your screen to the wrong side. Then to choose what image you want and to make sure that it's placed on the screen so that the wood part of the screen is not overlapping it anyway. Then I'm simply gonna use some painter's tape, and I'm gonna go ahead and paint around here, or not paint, but tape. The thing is, the better job you do taping, the better your print. So this is one of those things where it's good to take a little bit of time to do this rather than trying to rush through it, because you're only as good as your screen. So I'm just throwing the tape on there. Now, you can see that I have several other designs that are quite close to that bird. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna use the painter's tape as a barrier. And I simply go ahead and put my painter's tape right over anything that I don't want to get paint on. I don't have to create a big barrier. It can be quite a small, thin one, but it's just enough to remind me to stop and to not go any further. So once that's done, this is adhered on here. It's not going anywhere. So I can flip it over, and we're ready to print. So I'm gonna go ahead and take my fabric. I do like to start with a fabric that has a slight pattern on it, because I think it makes your screen prints look a little more organic. So I take it, I place it onto my printing surface with the correct side up. Then I'm going to place my bird so that it fits onto the fabric, okay, with the well of the screen up. Then I'm using screen printing ink, which is a kind of thick ink that takes a little bit longer to dry than, let's say, like an acrylic paint or something like that. I use my palette knife and I simply scoop some out. It's a little bit thicker and gloopier than traditional paint. And once I've put it out, I'm just gonna put out kind of a bead of it on there. Then I take my handy dandy credit card or room key, whatever it is, and you're just gonna scrape across the surface. And now you can see why we taped all around, because we wanna make sure that we're not getting that ink anywhere else. So I'm just scraping and pushing. You can actually hear it against the screen, scraping and pushing. And then when I lift this up off the fabric, you can see we have a fantastic print. So obviously we want to do more than one print. So here's my best tip for you. I'm going to take a piece of deli paper. This is literally paper that you would wrap your sandwich in. It's kind of waxy. And I'm going to place it onto the print. Now this is going to make sure that I don't get any cross-contamination when I turn my screen and I do my next print. So I'm just going to turn my screen. Okay, now I need to put some more ink on there. So I'm just gonna repeat the same process again, which is to put some more ink down on the screen and then grab with my credit card or my room key and just scrape across. And the more that you use this, the fewer times you actually have to scrape to get a really good print. And you can see right there, I've got another print going. So I would continue this process over and over again until my fabric was completely covered with birds or butterflies or whatever you wanted. Now you can see I have all the parts that I need here for my pillow. And what I've done is I've simply rolled the edge under and done a straight stitch across it. So I have 2 of those, and I'm gonna slightly overlap them, okay? And I wanna obviously put them so that the same side is together. There you go, with the stitch seams facing each other. Then I have my base layer here, and I'm going to flip them over onto it, just like this. Make sure that everything is squared up, and I would simply stitch all the way around. I don't need to leave a gap or anything. So I have one here where I've already done that. So what I'm gonna do now is simply reverse it, right? Just pull it around, and you can see, I think this is really cool. It's an easy stitching project. You don't need to be a good stitcher. You could even hand stitch this. And once it is all flipped around, I have a beautiful pillow cover. So if we look at the finished one, all you need to do is slip a pillow form in there, and you have a custom screen printed pillow. That is totally awesome.